Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun!
Micah wiped the grease from his hands on a rag, the familiar scent of motor oil clinging to his skin like a second layer. The garage was his sanctuary, a cluttered space filled with tools, engine parts, and the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. His auburn hair, tousled from a day under the hood of a vintage sedan, fell into his eyes as he bent to organize his workbench. At 35, he had built a life here in this small suburban town, fixing cars for neighbors and dreaming of the day he'd open his own shop. But beneath it all lurked a secret that gnawed at him, one he buried deep in the tool shed out back. Chloe, his wife of 8 years, was the light in his otherwise routine existence. She worked as a graphic designer from home, her laughter filling their cozy 2-story house with warmth. They had met in college, bonded over late-night talks about dreams and fears, and built a marriage on trust. Or so he thought. Micah's secret was a collection of women's clothing, hidden away in a locked box in the shed. Dresses, blouses, heels, items he slipped into during stolen moments when she was away, feeling a rush of authenticity that his everyday life couldn't provide. He was terrified of her finding out, convinced it would shatter everything. That afternoon, as storm clouds gathered outside, Chloe decided to surprise him by organizing the shed. She had been complaining about the mess for weeks, and with Micah deep in a repair job, she figured it was the perfect time. Pushing open the creaky door, she flicked on the light and started sorting through boxes. Dust motes danced in the air as she moved old paint cans and forgotten garden tools. Then, her hand brushed against something soft, shimmering. Pulling it out, she held up a sequined gold cocktail dress, its fabric catching the light like stars on a clear night. Her brow furrowed in confusion, but there was no anger, just curiosity. Micah heard her call his name from the backyard and froze, his heart pounding. He dropped the wrench he was holding and rushed out, fearing the worst. There she stood, dress in hand, her expression calm. "Micah, what's this?" she asked, holding it up. His mind raced, excuses tumbling over each other, but the truth clawed its way out. He stammered, explaining that it was his, part of a hidden side of himself he had never shared. He braced for rejection, for the end of their life together. Instead, Chloe tilted her head, a small smile playing on her lips. "What size do you wear? We should go shopping for shoes that match this. Gold heels would look stunning." Her words hung in the air, disarming him completely. They sat on the porch steps as he poured out the rest. How he was a crossdresser. How it made him feel whole in ways he couldn't explain. She listened without judgment, her hand on his, and when he finished, she hugged him tightly. "I love you, Micah. All of you. This doesn't change that." That evening marked the beginning of something new. Chloe suggested they start small, perhaps trying on the dress together at home. Micah hesitated, but her encouragement was gentle and genuine. In their bedroom, with the curtains drawn, he slipped into the gold cocktail dress. The sequins sparkled against his skin, and as he looked in the mirror, a wave of relief washed over him. Chloe helped adjust the fit, her eyes lighting up. "You look beautiful," she said. From that moment, something shifted irrevocably. Micah. No. She realized then that this was who she truly was, embraced the change. She would remain dressed as female, always, a permanent step into authenticity. Chloe supported it fully, and together they navigated this new chapter. The next morning, She woke with the dress still on, feeling a mix of exhilaration and nervousness. Chloe was already up, brewing coffee in the kitchen.
Good morning,
she said, handing over a mug. I was thinking we could go to the mall today. Pick out some outfits that suit you better. She nodded, her auburn hair catching the sunlight as she sipped the coffee. They drove to the local shopping center, a bustling place with stores lining wide corridors. Chloe led the way into a boutique, chatting casually with the sales associate about sizes and styles. She tried on a few blouses first, simple ones in soft pastels, feeling the fabric against her skin like a gentle affirmation. As they moved to dresses, Chloe held up a knee-length floral one. This would look perfect with your auburn hair. She slipped into the fitting room, emerging moments later, twirling slightly. The mirror reflected a woman she had always known was there, hidden. Chloe clapped her hands. Yes, let's get it! They spent hours there, adding skirts, tops, and even a pair of comfortable flats to their cart. Back home, she hung the new clothes in the closet right beside Chloe's. There was no going back. This was her now, fully and forever. Days turned into weeks, and she integrated this new self into their daily life. At the garage, she still worked on cars, but now in fitted jeans and a blouse instead of overalls, her auburn hair tied back in a ponytail. Customers noticed the change, some raising eyebrows, but most were polite, focusing on her skill with engines. One regular, an older man named Mr. Hargrove, brought in his truck for a tune-up.
Looking different today,
he commented gruffly. She smiled, wiping her hands.
Just being myself.
He nodded, respecting her expertise, and left with his vehicle purring smoothly. Chloe's acceptance deepened their bond. Evenings found them in the living room, Chloe sketching designs while she read about fashion or automotive trends. One night, Chloe surprised her with a makeup kit. I thought we could experiment, she said. They sat at the vanity, Chloe demonstrating eyeliner and blush. The auburn hair framed her face beautifully as subtle colors enhanced her features. You have such a natural grace, Chloe murmured. She felt seen, truly, for the first time. Their social circle began to shift, too. Friends from Chloe's work invited them to a casual dinner party. Nervous, she chose a simple black dress, pairing it with silver earrings Chloe had picked. At the gathering, introductions flowed easily. This is my wife, Chloe said proudly, and though it was a new dynamic, the group welcomed her warmly. Conversations turned to hobbies, and she shared stories of restoring classic cars, her passion undimmed. Laughter filled the room, easing any lingering anxiety. As months passed, she decided to make the change more official. They visited a therapist together, discussing transition options. The sessions were enlightening, helping her articulate feelings long suppressed. Chloe attended every one, her support unwavering. Eventually, she started hormone therapy, prescribed by a compassionate doctor. The changes were gradual, softer skin, subtle shifts in her figure, but each one felt like a step toward wholeness. Her auburn hair seemed to shine brighter, a constant in this evolving self. Work presented new challenges. The garage owner, a burly man named Ted, called her into his office one day.
Heard about your changes,
he said, scratching his head. She stood tall in her skirt and top, explaining briefly. To her surprise, Ted shrugged.
As long as you fix the cars right, I don't care what you wear.
It was a small victory, but it bolstered her confidence. She took on more complex repairs, like overhauling a transmission on a luxury SUV, her hands steady despite the grease smudges on her manicured nails. Chloe's love remained constant, embracing both sides of her life. One weekend, they attended a local art fair, strolling hand in hand. She wore a sundress that fluttered in the breeze, her auburn hair loose over her shoulders. Vendors sold handmade jewelry, and Chloe insisted on buying a necklace that complemented her eyes. "For the woman I love," she whispered. They laughed over shared ice cream, the day a perfect blend of normalcy and joy. Yet not everything was smooth. Family reactions varied. Her parents, living across town, were invited for dinner. She prepared a meal in an elegant blouse and slacks, her auburn hair styled neatly. When they arrived, explanations followed. Her mother hugged her tightly, tears in her eyes. "I'm just happy you're happy." Her father took longer, but by evening's end, he clapped her on the back. "Takes courage," he said gruffly. It was progress, a bridge mended. Community events became opportunities for growth. They joined a support group for LGBTQ+ individuals, meeting others with similar stories. She shared her journey one evening, her voice steady as she described the discovery of the gold dress. Listeners nodded, offering encouragement. Chloe squeezed her hand, proud. These connections expanded their world, introducing new friends who understood. Professionally, she dreamed bigger. With Chloe's encouragement, she applied for a loan to start her own mechanic shop. The bank meeting was nerve-wracking. She arrived in a professional pantsuit, auburn hair pinned up. The loan officer reviewed her business plan, impressed by her experience. "You've got a solid track record," he said, approving the funds. Excitement bubbled as they scouted locations, envisioning a space where she could work authentically. Daily routines evolved, too. Mornings started with shared breakfasts, Chloe complimenting her outfits. "That scarf brings out your auburn hair perfectly." Afternoons at the garage involved diagnosing issues, like a faulty alternator on a family minivan. She explained the problem to the owner, a young mother, who appreciated the clear communication. Evenings were for relaxation, perhaps a walk in the park, her skirt swaying as they talked about future plans. One rainy afternoon, a challenge arose. A storm knocked out power, flooding the garage. She waded in wearing practical boots and a raincoat over her dress, directing the cleanup. Colleagues pitched in, respecting her leadership. By nightfall, order was restored, and she felt empowered, her identity unshaken. Their intimacy deepened in non-physical ways, through honest conversations. Chloe shared her own insecurities, strengthening their partnership. "You've always been you," she said one night, as they cuddled on the couch. She nodded, grateful. As the year progressed, she took up new hobbies. Sewing classes at the community center allowed her to alter clothes, creating custom pieces. Her auburn hair often fell forward as she focused on stitches, Chloe cheering her on. They hosted a small gathering for friends, where she wore a gown she had modified herself, feeling elegant and accomplished. Travel became part of their adventures. A weekend trip to the city included museum visits and fine dining. She chose a chic ensemble for the occasion, her auburn hair styled in waves. At a gallery opening, they mingled with artists, her confidence growing with each interaction. Back home, she mentored a young apprentice at the garage, teaching engine basics while dressed in her usual attire. The teen listened eagerly, inspired by her poise. "You're really good at this," he said. It was fulfilling, passing on knowledge. Holidays brought family closer. Thanksgiving saw them hosting, she in a festive dress, auburn hair adorned with a clip. Laughter echoed as stories were shared, acceptance weaving through the air. Winter brought snow, and they built a snowman in the yard, her scarf fluttering. Chloe captured the moment on camera, cherishing the joy. Spring arrived with renewal. She planted a garden, kneeling in a sun hat and skirt, auburn hair tied back. Flowers bloomed, mirroring her growth. Summer heat waves led to beach outings. Hope you enjoyed the story so far. The rest will be available on Patreon.